Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Your thoughts on Alex Ovechkin as he chases down Gordie Howe and then eventually Wayne Gretzky?
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. We're all waiting for it. We all cross our fingers and hope that he remains healthy, and it's going to happen sooner than later. For me, I just watch the player return to the area each and every year with the same amount of hunger and zest to win, Dan, more than anything. Yeah, he knows his goals contribute a great deal and with respect to how Washington wins hockey games. But most importantly for Alex right now is winning. And I've said this a number of times. Everybody fixates on the Gretzky number, the Gordie Howe number, the 800 number, every plateau along the way. And I still think the most important number right now for Alex is 2, as in that second Stanley Cup. He wants that desperately. But all of us sit there with history in mind and realize that we're seeing something that is truly remarkable. I just spent the last 45 minutes or so writing a game tease for next week's initial season opener on NBC Sports Washington, at least game 2. It was a tease comparing Ovechkin and Austin Matthews. And as I'm writing it, my fingers are sort of shaking, going like, he is doing things that are so remarkable, and he has all these great young gunslingers chasing him. But I don't know that we've ever going to truly see another Alex Ovechkin, not in the way that it is so difficult to score goals in this day and age, and the great regularity that he's done it for 17 seasons. It's astounding to me, Dan. And as a play-by-play announcer, you're truly blessed.
Yeah, and it's funny. John Carlson said, we knew he was doing well, but Jesus, it's getting crazy now. So it is a good thing that he's progressing along here, but he's going to have to do it without his right-hand man. Nick Backstrom has assisted on 274 of Ovechkin's career goals. Ovechkin has assisted on 106 of Backstrom's. And I know that oftentimes they don't play on the same line, hardly ever anymore. It's Kuzi on that top line. That really has to hurt Ovechkin not to have a guy that's been there through thick and thin with him since the very beginning of his career. We do know that Nick Backstrom is going to be out for the lion's share, if not all of this season. Talk to me a bit about Nick Backstrom and what he means to this team and the special connection to Alex Ovechkin.
The connection for so long, as you said, was line mate to line mate, center to wing. And yeah, there are occasions, I'm sure, when Peter Laviolette will go back to that comfortable shoe, that incredibly comfortable pairing of 8 and 19. Who wouldn't? Kuznetsov is a player who has remarkable skating ability and playmaking ability. I don't know that he has the vision of Nicholas Backstrom. Very few people do. And for so often and for so long, Backstrom has had eyes for number 8. And a lot of that would have started on power play combinations. In sequences where Backstrom is just a genius, a maestro working that half-board position. And that may be one of the places where the Caps will miss him most. I know for sure, and I hate injuries in general. I mean, if it was Pollyanna, none of these guys would ever get hurt. We could bubble wrap them and they would play to the best of their ability for as long as they could. But injuries are part of the game in every sport, and especially so at the highest level where it's played so ferociously and so fast. And here's Nicholas coming towards the tail end of his career, and he's saddled with an injury that's likely going to keep him out for many, many months. I'm crossing my fingers, and I'm hoping that we're going to see Nicholas Backstrom this season. I don't know if we will. So very few athletes have been able to come back from a hip resurfacing type procedure like Nicholas had over the summer and return to the level of play that's required to play in the NHL. I'm hoping Nicholas can do it. I know he wants to do it. And in a perfect world, we might see him as spring rolls around, as Stanley Cup playoff time rolls around. What are you missing from Nicholas Backstrom? An amazing playmaker, a terrific leader. Dan, one of the cool things about my job, and there's a lot of them, but one of the cool things is I get to see these guys grow up. I've known Nicholas Backstrom since he was 19. And the way that he has changed personality-wise, the way that he has changed in his leadership capabilities. I mean, when Nicholas was a rookie, he was afraid of his own shadow. And that shadow often was cast by the grade 8, who was the rock star superstar who wanted all the attention. Nicholas never wanted any of that per se when he was a baby in this league. But as his time has come along, he's become a family man. He's become that much more comfortable in his own skin. that much more apt to grab Dan or whomever in the locker room and say, hey, we need you to do it this way. It's a remarkable transformation to watch. I've had a front seat to it for a long, long time. I know in my business, I'm not supposed to play favorites, but Dan, he's one of my favorites. And I think he's one of Caps fandom's favorites for what he's done on and off the ice. He has comported himself so very well. I personally believe he's a Hall of Fame player. I sure hope that he will be honored in some way like that in the future, but I hope that that's down the line a little bit. I know we're all rooting for Nicholas to return. It's just a very sort of cloudy situation right now. You're not quite sure how it's going to turn out, but I know and I hope that it turns out the best for number 19.
And one of the things I can say about Nick is that he always has such a positive attitude. The press kind of tried to take a little bit of a negative spin, and they said, you realize that not a lot of these guys come back. And he goes, listen, I understand it, but I couldn't tie my shoes. I couldn't play with my kids. I had to do what I had to do. And, my heart kind of goes out to him, because we have to look at Nick Backstrom, the person, not just the hockey player. And of course, we want to see him back out on ice. But at the end of the day, I care about Nick, the person, and the guy that Mac went out and picked up, Dylan Strome, ostensibly to fill that second line center. I know that there's going to be a battle out there, Connor McMichael, etc. What do you think about Dylan Strome? I mean, in one of the last games there, he scored 2 goals, so he's showing up on the score sheet. Signed a 1-year deal, and it seems like the Blackhawks kind of just discarded him, but their loss appears to be the Washington Capitals' gain.
I think he's going to be a player that gives you some flexibility, Dan. And I don't mean this pun intended with regard to your ending comment on Nicholas. There were times at the end of the playoffs, especially, where we were watching Nick hop along, uncomfortably walking on the just trying to get to the rink. It was amazing to me that he was able to play to any degree. So again, fingers crossed, Nicholas feels better now and will build up strength. In the meantime, someone like Dylan Strome comes to town with a reputation of being able to produce talented plays. I think he's, from what I gather, he seems to be a player who's very good front of the cage, very good shooter. I think from what I could tell, he's a bigger player, bigger body than I originally thought from watching him in his previous stops. He's right up there in terms of height with Darcy Kemper, and Darcy's got to be pushing close to 6'4", 6'5". Strome is a very intriguing person, I think, and a talent for Peter Laviolette and his staff to work with this season. I think you're going to see him early in the campaign getting prime power play minutes and time on that first power play unit. He can work the front of the goal. He can work the goal line extended. I think he's learning now the combinations in sequencing with Kuznetsov and Oshie. So I wouldn't be surprised if Strome gets some prime power play time there at the outset, and let's see where it goes. I think he gives you the flexibility to play center or wing. And you mentioned a name there, Connor McMichael. With respect to McMichael and Hendrix Lapierre, who's been reassigned to the American Hockey League, at their age, Dan, I want them to go to the American League, play really well, play at an all-star level at that level. And then when center positions are available, Connor's going to tell you, McMichael's going to tell you, I'm naturally a center. When those center positions become available down the road, and they are, Washington has center depth, but they have a lot of age in that center spot too. Let Lapierre and McMichael jump into the NHL ranks when they're ready and do it at their natural positions. I don't want to see, not that I don't want to see, but it seems to be more awkward than not to have McMichael playing out of position if he tells you, I'm best served at center. Okay, fine. But young man, if you want to make the team and you make it as a wing, you're going to play wing. Obviously, he just wants to be with the big club. But for me, at this age, and both of those guys, Lapierre and McMichael in particular, are so young, Dan. Let them bake a little bit more in the American Hockey League. Give Connor a little bit more time. Let Lapierre grow there. It's going to be his first pro experience there. That's great. Give him that time. Let them prove themselves. And if they are what we think they are, they will graduate to the NHL sooner than later.